Back again. I'm Kevin, and I'm not childish. And hopefully through this video you're going to see that I have raised my immaturity level a bit higher. As you can see, it's managing Comey, but in reality I wanted to call it managing people. However, I was hoping that this would get me a few more hits. Sorry, I guess I'm a little selfish too. Let me get started by saying I've managed people. I've managed quite a few at one time. And in the business world, in the private sector, you don't have the option of holding on to people, figuring somebody else can afford to pay for them, as the government does. Even if they don't perform well, you can't hold on to them. However, there are ways that you need to deal with them, and it's really not dealing, it's caring. You gotta, unless you're a tyrant and like to manage by tyranny, there's a very good way of handling people, treating them with respect, and giving them the most opportunity to succeed. And I'll start off by saying it seems that Comey must have never been in the private sector, or he would have known these things. He would have known how I'm about to describe managing people. And I have another question with him, and it's, I wonder how he managed his people. I kind of see, you might break it down into three categories. It's not really categories, but you know, there's the tyranny, there's the caring about people, and then there's the marshmallows who allow their employees to walk all over them, which is where I started out. I didn't start out with the tyranny, thank the Lord for that. But still, I wasn't getting anywhere with my employees, and I didn't know how to communicate with them at first. But through years of having my own business and then moving into a rather large aircraft company, I had to figure it out, that's for sure. And I definitely didn't believe in tyranny, and I cared about the people. So let's get this started here. One of the first things, you never say anything bad about the person in public. Never. That's a recipe for disaster right from the very beginning. You put the person on the defense, they end up developing a group of followers that support them, and it gets them charged up. I have seen many times where people, just because they like to gossip and all, make a situation a lot worse than what it is. Just out of respect for the person, you shouldn't say that. And that doesn't mean they're a bad person. You have to realize they may not be in the best situation at the time. They also may not be the person for the job. And whose fault is that? That's management's fault. In fact, since I'm into that, there are 3 reasons a person fails at a job, and all 3 of them are due to management. Management didn't train them well enough. Management didn't give them the tools to succeed. Management hired the wrong person. That's it. That is it. And management should always take it, look at it that way. And if they have to let a person go, they also shouldn't feel bad about it. Just do it with respect. Now, a way to improve that employee is to give them a good reputation to live up to. Maybe they're not as good as what you say they are, but if you give them credit and say that they're better than what most people think, they, in a lot of cases, will step up and meet your statements and go past them. And then they'll start believing in them as well. They'll see what you're saying, and they'll have exceeded their own capabilities, which is another thing with a manager. A real manager enjoys seeing their employees succeed, even to the point where they actually surpass you as a manager, or they move on to another company where they can grow even more. Either way, you should be proud that you were part of the solution, the part of them growing. That's a big feather in your cap. And if your company doesn't see that, well, you're working for the wrong company. When you do have an issue with them, of course, I said you don't say negative things out in public, not out in the workforce. You take them aside. You never start with what they've done wrong. You always start with something they do right. And you explain to them how much you respect their abilities. And then you mention the issue that you have where they could improve, which would be a great help not only to their success and their ability to advance in the company, but also will produce a better product, or, make life easier for the company and for the customer. Then you give them, after you've made the correction, you don't threaten them. Then you give them another compliment, and you maybe give them a timeline to see about making some improvement. But certainly you do a follow-up and let them know how it's going, so they know. Another thing is you do not do this during review time. It has to be done before review. You do not take them into their review and slam them. That is a time to give them a lot of praise and give them whatever raise that they're going to get. Maybe explain how they could get a better raise next time, but you don't get into the details. If they ask for help, you give it to them. There then comes a time when you finally have exhausted all your efforts on that person and you realize that they have to go. You don't give them a lot of warning, and there's a good reason for that. Giving them a warning gives them the chance to wreak havoc in the company. If you've been doing what I've been saying here all along, there's no reason to give them a warning. They should know it's coming. Just don't let them know when. You're going to say that's not fair, but you were fair by giving them opportunities beforehand. You treat them with respect that entire time. You never say anything bad about them until, well, in fact, you never say anything bad about them really in public or out in the workforce ever. Okay? Now, the reason you let them go all at once is because they could get in the computer system and cause all kinds of troubles. They could steal documents that are important, that could, cause trouble with the company. I'm not sure how to say it, but I know some of it might look bad for the company, in other words. Now, hopefully it's an honest company. And so that's not, so you don't have to worry about it. So you shouldn't have to worry about them exposing some of your illegal activities. However, no matter what kind of company you are, these are the rules all companies follow, unless they haven't learned. I also want to point out there are times when you give them warnings, but that's based on like reprimands for tardiness. You know, if you're tardy one more time, we're going to have to let you go. In other words, that type of thing. Being confrontational. You give them warnings. And those you don't have to be as sugar-coated with them. Those you just pretty much say, we have 3 strikes, you're out, or whatever your measurements are. Too many sick days. Yeah. These are measured performances, and they can be easily defined for any person. But of course, you also have to follow them. So remember that. So now, once you've let them go, I want to point out, everybody says, oh, why'd you let them go now? You could have done it this time. You could have done it that time. I'm going to say that no matter what day of the week, no matter what time of the month, no matter when in the year, anybody can find a reason for not doing it at that moment. It just happens, and that's it. The day comes, it's over, they're gone. There's no sense in saying, well, maybe I should put it off or whatever, or I should have done it sooner. The day's the day. There's no good days. It's only a bad day. It's not a good day for either side, because now you're not only losing someone you've invested in and that you've come close to, you're also having to replace them, and you're worried about them as far as how they're going to do in the future. But I'm going to point out, in 90% of the cases, the person bounces right back and actually finds something better, where they're more suited in most cases, and where they're happier because of nothing else. They were due for a change anyway. The last thing, and this is one that Trump and everybody else makes a mistake on, which I can't believe that they don't understand this one. You don't give a reason. If you own a company, you don't tell people out on the floor why you got rid of them. If you're the president, you don't give a reason. It only gives people ammunition. They're not going to be happy no matter what, because that person was a friend, or maybe they were an enemy. But either way, it just creates controversy. Just let them go and say we had our reasons. I mean, the best I'm ever come up with is, you're just not a good fit. I know you have talent, but you're just not a good fit for our company. All right, well, I hope that shed some light on management. I strongly believe in what I just taught you. I can say that I learned these things on my own. However, then I took management courses, one of them being Dale Carnegie, 2 of them, in fact, from him, that support these views. And I've taken many one-day courses and things like that as well. So it's not just me saying this. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.